I did. I said yes, and I was only 15 years old. So I thought I would just do a story time about my life early on, going back about 33 years. No more like 38 years. So let's go back to April the 27th, 1987. 1987. Yeah, so my grandfather was the pastor at a church, and he also pastored the church I went to. So he was pastoring two different places, second and fourth Sunday at one, first and third Sunday at another one. So I was 15, and my cousin and I would go with them to revival at his other church when they had revival. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, there were some reasons why my cousin and I did that. Yes, yes, and yes, it was for boys. But, my grandfather loved the company because it was a drive. It was like 35 minutes from home. And so he enjoyed the company, as he had to go to revival. So this guy was cute. He was cute. I was 15. I didn't really know how old he was, but I just thought he was cute. And so I made a plan. So I would interact with his sister quite often, and she was, maybe 17 years old, and I was 15. She may have been 18. But my plan of action was to reach out to her via a letter. Because remember, this is in the 80s, so there wasn't no texting or telephone this, or it was writing. Okay, so I wrote her a letter, and I was telling her about how, I felt about her brother. He was handsome. He seemed like he was God-fearing because he was always at church. And I knew she was going to go tell him these things. Y'all, I had this plan. I knew she was going to go back and tell him. And she did. So she took it to him that night after church. He read it. And needless to say, that next night at revival, I could tell that he had read it because it was just awkward during the service. It was awkward. So I didn't know if he liked me or not. I didn't know. I was just going off of the vibes that I got during the revival service. So anyway, so after service, before I say after service, during service, he was sitting on what we call the deacon board. He was sitting on that side with his cousins. And I kept seeing him look at me, and I would look at him. So, I kind of picked up that this may be actually a love connection at 15. So, I was a little excited. So after church, we all gather around talking, and my granddaddy would talk, but then he would go to his car and sit in the car. And let me tell you why he said he was doing that. He would go in the car and sit in the car, and he said he was giving us an opportunity to cope. But, that's what they called it. So he didn't want to rush us. He thought, hey, these are some really nice boys, and their family is in the church. So these are my granddaughters. This would be perfect. So after church, I was talking to his sister, and he was standing behind her. And so, he was acting all shy. He'll tell you he wouldn't, but he was acting all shy. So we kind of talked back and forth a little bit, and that's just really how it started. So for the rest of the week, we wrote letters, and we exchanged numbers. And so on April the 30th, which was, a few days after that, he asked me to be his girlfriend officially. And of course, I said yes. And so I was 15 and he was 17. He had just turned 17 that same month. So on the 30th, he shocked me. He said, I want to marry you in 4 years. Y'all, listen, I'm 15 years old. I had just turned 15 in January of that year. So I was 15. My nose was all open and fluttery and, Cupid and all that. So, I'm going to say yeah. So I said yes. So that would have meant that I was going to be 19 and he was going to be 21. So I was like, yeah, of course you're going to tell him, yeah, because you don't want to lose anybody on a technicality like marriage. Seriously? So my mom was really strict. She's a strict mother. So she was raising us by herself, me and my brother and sister. And so it wasn't really easy, to be in a relationship, especially at 15. But of course, we weren't going to go nowhere because I was 15. We just exchanged letters and rewrote letters, and we mailed them to each other because that's the only method of communication besides the telephone. So we were both from the same state, but different counties. So it was long distance for us to make telephone calls to each other. That's a whole nother story. But needless to say, we kept writing letters over the years. But before I get to the over the years, let me tell you how I feel like God threw a monkey wrench in my plans. So shortly after this, in the same year, we were boyfriend and girlfriend. My grandmother called me Sunday after church, and I was her first phone call, baby. She be giving me the tea every Sunday at church, because remember, I didn't go to that church. I went to the other church. So, they would go to that church and then, or whatever. So she would call me to update me on what happened during service at the other church. So she called me when she got home and she was like, I just wanted to tell you that my boyfriend got up in church and announced that he had been called into the ministry. Well, to say that I was disappointed, I'm not going to even lie to you. I didn't even know what I was getting myself into. So when she told me that, I was like, okay, he's going to be a preacher. And in her tone, I could tell she was concerned. So she was like, are you okay with that? And I was like, yeah, I guess I'm going to have to be, because, hey, I'm his girlfriend. Not thinking, oh, okay, well, this is going to be a whole lifestyle. So I was like, I'm just 15 years old. It's not going to affect me like that, right? She was like, I just want to tell you, because, that life is a hard life. And I was like, Grandma, I ain't finna marry the boy. I'm just, I had already told him I was going to marry him in 4 years, but I wasn't thinking about that. I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about the love of my life. I'm 15. I'm in love. That's all I was thinking about. So he preached his first message. I went. He was only 17, y'all. He was 17 years old, and I was 15. And he preached his first message, and I went, and I was like, okay, this is okay. No big deal. He's not pastoring or anything. He's just a disciple, like we should be. We should all be disciples of Christ, right? So our relationship had a lot of different challenges, and there were some ups and downs, and I can get into that a lot, later. I'm just giving you a foundational video. But yeah, we dated from 15. My age was 15 until I was 19. Was it straight dating, no breakups? Absolutely not. We broke up probably 3 times during the 4 years. You have to remember, I was a 15-year-old, just had made it to high school, and he was 2 years in school older than me. So, it was challenging for the relationship because, number one, for a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old, it was intense. And when I say intense, I don't mean by physical attraction. It was intense because it was like we knew that this was going to lead to something more permanent, but we really didn't know. I say I didn't know. I think he knew, but I was just, saying stuff because I want to keep my man. So, like around I'll say this, around my junior year, he did take me to my junior prom, and he also took me to my senior prom. However, during my senior prom, we were not a couple. We were not. I had asked my cousin to go with me to my prom, but the boyfriend, not boyfriend, but the ex-boyfriend wasn't going for that. So he took me to my senior prom as well. Even when we were broke up, we still saw each other. We still communicated. I still, went places with him when I could, because my mama wasn't playing no games, baby. It wasn't no dating and doing this and that. We were on a short leash. So, we still saw each other. We had a relationship. Y'all, we would be not boyfriend and girlfriend and still be boyfriend and girlfriend. It was just the oddest thing. It was just really strange. Now, I will say this. I was popular in school, and he was popular in school. We went to 2 different schools because we were in 2 different districts and 2 different counties. However, so we had those challenges as well, and I think it just took a lot. Even when we were not together, people would ask me questions, and I would be like, no, we're not together, but that's my husband. That's who I'm going to marry. And I said that it was just something in me that knew that this guy was it. Even if I had a relationship outside of him or whatever, it just was always, I was just coming back to him. And so after the 4 years, leading up to, I think it's like graduation. I was graduating. He graduated 2 years before me. So during my graduation, he gave me a promise ring. And the promise ring was, I was promising my heart to him. And so I graduated when I was 18 because my birthday is in January. So I graduated when I was 18. And it was like, I don't know, it was just kind of like, we didn't talk about it, but we talked about it. We didn't really discuss it, but we knew, marriage is next. It was just weird. And it's a lot of different things that went along with that, but I'm just giving you a foundation. And I would love to, talk about some of the things we endured as a young couple early on. So, around the fall of the year that I graduated high school, I was trying to determine what I wanted to do. So, I had initially wanted to go to Mississippi State University, but then when I reconnected with my boyfriend, I decided that I wanted to go to a community college here where I could just commute and come home because I didn't want to go away for school. And he didn't want me to go away either. So my mama wasn't all too happy about the going away to school situation. But then when she found out that I was thinking about marriage, it changed. She was all for me going away, but I just, that was not where my heart was. I wanted to get married, and I was just 18, y'all. And so we just started talking about it more. The Christmas of that year, December of that year, which was 1990, he bought me a ring. We had picked it out. It was at Service Merchandise, y'all. My first ring came from Service Merchandise. I was so proud of it. But so we really started talking about it in December, and kind of talked to the parents, and it didn't go over well. We were young. I was 19. No, I was 18 in December, and he was 20. Yeah. And so we just started talking about it, and we started just really being serious about marriage in December. And we had set a date. We set a date for April the 27th, that next year, 1991. And that was literally 4 months from the date that I got engaged. I got engaged on Christmas Day. So between that time, it was a lot of people talking to us and trying to talk us out of it. And, it was a lot, but we had our minds made up. I had been in school for almost a year, and so yeah, so that's what happened. We planned, and my mom, made my bridesmaids dresses. My aunt made my wedding dress. It was low budget. We probably spent $300, but y'all, it was just a beautiful occasion. Things just was beautiful because we didn't care. We just wanted to be with each other.